Hey friends, this is Andy Crouch at All About Beer. Let's take a second to thank our friends at Human Robot in Philly for their support of All About Beer. As one of our newest underwriters, Human Robot shows that it loves great words and pictures about beer as much as 10-ounce milk tubes of Czech-style Mliko pours, something they invented. With their focus on classic styles and most importantly great lager beer, Human Robot has understandably made a great name for itself. Join me in celebrating their luscious lagers and fine ales. And also, join Human Robot and the more than 25 other sponsors as part of the All About Beer community.
Welcome to Drink Beer, Think Beer, the podcast that gets to the bottom of every pint. I'm John Holl. As the weather turns colder across the U.S. and the holidays creep up, it's hard not to think about big, boozy imperial stouts, preferably ones that have spent some time in barrels. This week on the show, it's Mike Pallen of Mikerphone Brewing in Illinois. He is fresh off a week of events tied to the Festival of Wood and Barrel Aged Ales, and he's here to talk about time, adjuncts, aging, and more. First, if you like the show, and judging by all the folks who listen, you do, I hope you'll consider leaving a review on your podcast platform of choice. It helps other people find the show, and, it's just a nice thing to do. I've been talking about this on the show for a while, and you often hear Andy Crouch at the cold open of the show. But the way we're able to keep bringing original content to the beer industry and curious beer drinkers is through your support. We have created an affordable underwriting program that is easy on your budget, helps get you visibility, and is an altruistic way to directly fund writers, photographers, and editors. Please visit allaboutbeer.com/support to learn more. When you're at the website, poke around a bit, read some of the recent articles, peruse the archives, which go all the way back to 1979 when All About Beer was founded, and tune into other podcasts like Brewer to Brewer and the All About Beer podcast. You won't be disappointed. You can follow us on social media at All About Beer to keep up with everything else we have going on, and I hope you do. We'll get into the conversation in a moment, but first, here's a note from this episode's sponsors. We thank them for their support, and we hope you'll give them your business. Today's episode is brought to you by Stomp Stickers. Stomp is built for the business community, serving everyone from small independents to larger franchises. Whether you need low minimums for a limited batch or bulk pricing for your go-to products, they've got you covered. Join thousands of breweries that trust Stomp for their custom printing needs. Go to stompstickers.com and try them out and score 15% off of your first order with the code FIRSTRUN.
Calling all hopheads. Dogfish Head's 60-minute IPA is a fantastically hoppy India Pale Ale that's beautifully balanced thanks to their unique continual hopping method. Delivering a pungent hop flavor that isn't crushingly bitter, 60-minute is continually hopped throughout the boil for a full 60 minutes. Starting to see where the name comes from? Check out dogfish.com to learn more and to find some 60-minute near you. Dogfish Head Craft Brewery, Milton, Delaware. Please drink responsibly.
I have FoBAB FOMO. The Festival of Wood and Barrel Aged Beer took place in Chicago last weekend. The annual celebration of usually strong beers, often stouts and barley wines, but sometimes mixed culture fermentation beers and surprise gems happened. And by all of the pictures that I saw online, it looked like it was a hell of a time. It's a remarkable gathering and one that should be on everyone's list. To get me excited for next year, I'm joined by Mike Pallen. He's the founder of Mikerphone Brewing. He's not only a big proponent of stouts, but also hosts a series of events that lead into FoBAB. We caught up a few days after the fest, and on a day he was hosting some friends for a collaboration brew. So we start there. Here's our conversation. So I'm catching you, Mike, on a day when you have another brewery inside of your house doing a collab. What's in the kettle right now? Who are you doing it with? What?
Yeah, we are
what's
brewing
the collab? Yeah.
We're brewing a beer with Workforce Brewing, just located just outside of Chicago. And we are doing a big stout that is going to get clean treatment of s'mores. So we're going to do kind of a s'more campfire stout with some barrel-aged honey from Dancing Goat Distillery. And then the other half of it's going to go sit in some Weller barrels and some Whiskey Acres Bloody Butcher barrels.
Jesus.
And then we'll let those sit for a couple of years and see what happens.
All right. See, now there's like 9 things to unpack with that. So, I mean, one, I love that we're in the era of beer. Old me would be mad at this, but I love the new me, the 2025, just embrace all of the chaos me. I love that we now talk about like clean marshmallows, like where it's just, as opposed to the wild marshmallow program
Yeah.
that we had going on back in the day. But talk to me about barrel aged honey and what that does, because I have a limited understanding of brewing with honey, and it's usually that it gets washed out pretty quickly. So how does barrel aged honey contribute to a beer?
So thankfully on this side, what we're going to do with this barrel aged honey is we're going to put it after fermentation.
Okay.
Give it that. We're looking for that, that honey sweetness you'd have on the honey graham cracker, and that flavor. And it's pretty wild. So the Dance and Go Distillery out of Cambridge, Wisconsin has been doing this. They've been kind of using the honey just to give their barrels some extra flavor, and then traditionally haven't done much with the honey outside of maybe used it for a couple cocktails. And so when I had mentioned to him that, we're doing some maple syrup stuff, he's like, I also have barrel aged honey if you want. And I was like, send it. It is such a unique taste. It's not your traditional honey.
So unpack this because I'm super curious now.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about what you naturally get out of oak, right? You're getting those vanillins, you're getting those oaky, boozy notes, and so that's taking what your traditional honey tastes like and adding these to it, and now you've created this almost like candy-like flavor that is just absolutely unparalleled from everything we've ever had before. So we're hoping in this instance with this beer, which will have chocolate, we'll have marshmallow, graham cracker elements, through cinnamon and some other stuff. Then adding the honey on the backside of it will just amplify that s'more quality that we're looking for. And, traditionally, if you make a s'more over a campfire, you might get a little bit of smoke and oak in it. And so we're hoping that has that carry through and really creates this perfect version of a s'more stout.
You say you're going to lay it down for a couple years. Do you have, I mean, you've been doing this now a while and you've messed around with barrels enough, and I have had your beers enough time to trust your process because the end result is always fun. When you say a few years, like, is that 2? Is that 5? What? And
yeah,
and yeah,
with everything. So when we first started, we were kind of under this initial guidance from Goose Island of how to do some stuff. And they were traditionally, 8 months was a good benchmarking point. And so we were sticking to that, but we were getting a lot of feedback from consumers wishing there was more oak and more barrel characteristic. So the more time I spent going down to Kentucky and hanging out with distilleries, I learned a lot more about the process of why Kentucky works better than most places. Of their climate goes through all 4 seasons every day. And so the liquid's going in and out of wood constantly. And so I feel like when we did 8 months here in Chicagoland area, we're not capturing all those 4 seasons. We're not going in and out of wood all the way through. And so we started letting it sit for at least 12 months. And we were finding that sometimes if you let it go even until 18 months was our sweet spot of let's go let them sit for at least 18 months to capture that kind of cyclical seasonality of it. And let's see what happens. And it just instantly gave us way more than we'd ever been getting before. And so now we're at the point now where we had 220 barrels filled. Some of them kind of got tucked away and left in the mix. And we revisited some and came back to some. And we've had some that have sat for 4 years in barrel, 3 years in barrel, 2 years. But that sweet spot to start tasting is 18 months. And I feel like what we're finding mostly is that 24 to 36 is a really good spot for when we're finding the maximum flavor profile we're looking for.
So you brought up Goose, and one of the reasons we're talking right now is because FoBAB, the Festival of Wood and Barrel Aged Beer, was held last weekend in Chicago. Your brewery now does lead up events to it. wasn't able to make it out your way this year, had the FOMO that you get when you start to see all of the pictures pop up. And I figured the next best thing I could do is live vicariously through you and be like, so tell me all about it. And I want to get to that in a second, but we're coming up on Black Friday. Goose, I assume, will do its Goose thing where, here's a dozen variants of Bourbon County Stout. There's going to be questions as to what year it actually started. There's going to be all of like the normal Goose Island conversations, right? But that Chicago has turned into a region, a brewing region, Chicagoland, that is focused on barrel aging and pushing that envelope forward. And I think Goose still probably gets a lot of attention among certain things, but I feel like in some cases it's been left behind, and that's not an ownership thing. It's just there's cool stuff happening on the smaller scale, much like when they first started doing it, and there was some excitement to it. Like as you start to get bigger and there's larger expectations, sometimes there's a run to the middle. Whereas, you miss some of that innovation, some of that fun. Is that fair? Like, I mean, you're on the front lines of this now. And when I think of stouts in that area, I think of you first. Is what I just sort of said, is that a fair assessment of things, or am I being overly cynical?
That, after Goose got purchased, a lot of people had a weird feeling about them. We don't have that feeling because they're our friends. These are the people that we've grinded with for the last 15 years, celebrated their fruits, and they're normal brewers just like us who care and want to make the best possible product. And we've linked different things, and it's been amazing to watch what they do and kind of how they pioneered and paved the way for us, right? And I think though that because they're such a big company now, people think of them in a different way, but you still see the excitement over Bourbon County every year. And the bars can't wait to do this showcase and say, come in and try all of them. The stores are still doing their release parties. And what's cool too, locally, they have, a special day for Prop, and Prop is their letting employees kind of build their perfect adjuncted blend. And one lucky employee gets rewarded with theirs being mass produced. It's super cool. And there's a huge day for it. And there's a lot of excitement for it. It's fun. They're bringing back King Henry again this year too, which is amazing. I mean, King Henry is still in my top 5 ever, forever and ever and ever. And so we'll see if they recreated that magic this year. And there's a lot of excitement around that beer to be back, right? And so it's fun on their aspect. But now that we've all been able to get into this game and have time and space, because when we first started, we didn't have the money to tuck away beer. We didn't have the space to tie up quality space in our small warehouse to put barrels in. Now that we've gotten to a point of being open for 10 years, we've had time to kind of build out a barrel room and let it, dedicate a lot of money and time to it. I think it's really shown what we can do, and we don't need to blend 20 barrels together to make a batch. We can do single barrel stuff. We can do 2-barrel blends, and really let these things kind of develop and come together. And we've been able to, forge some great relationships with distilleries all over the place and brokers, and, try to get some of these really, really sexy barrels in, whether it be a Pappy barrel or it's some kind of crazy, Amburana barrel that was hot a few years ago. And we can get those in and get them filled the next day, super wet, super fresh, and let the process begin. And it's really been a lot of fun to develop these programs from 0 barrels to 8 barrels to then 200 barrels and see where it goes. And I'm talking a barrel, meaning 53-gallon wood barrel.
Yeah. So there's a lot to unpack there, right? And it's, I guess, one of the things that you brought up that got me thinking is, for a while there was, I feel like every brewery had a barrel program, right? Like, let's go back pre-COVID, and you'd walk into a place and it's like, oh yeah, we got this barrel and we threw a stout in it, and we're going to see what happens with it. It's like, okay, cool. Like that kind of thing, and then there were, deliberate folks like you and others out there who were like, okay, like we're going to put some thought behind this, and we're going to put some time behind this, and we're going to get it to where we want it. And, maybe we're going to try 7 different barrels and doing blending and trying to get to that perfect thing. And now you're just talking about single barrels, like, which I think is really cool as well. And a lot of those smaller programs have fallen by the wayside. Just it's the nature of where consumers are at these days. Have you seen a maturing in the audience and the consumers and what they're looking for from your stouts versus when you first started that program?
Well, I think,
and if so, yeah, like what is it? Yeah.
Yeah, I think as we've seen with the industry, there's less of the I need to purchase everything and have backups of it in my cellar. So we definitely aren't seeing the same crowd or demand as we used to, right? But I do think the people that are still into it and appreciate drinking it when we release it are a select group that really understand what we're doing and get it and are excited to try those new barrels or those new blends. We do a series called Pick of Destiny, and we'll invite our top clients in to sit down and taste through 10 barrels and ultimately pick their favorite. And then that gets packaged and sent to their store for their only exclusive release. And we've got several customers who will chase those bottles so they can try all the different picks to see the difference. And I think their palates have grown into a place where they know the nuances now. They know what it means. They ask how long or what barrel it was, or is there anything different about it? And it's been really fun to see, and it allows us to play. We don't just put one base stout in these barrels. We'll make wheated stouts for wheat barrels. We'll make rye stout for rye barrels. We'll make super sweet stouts. We'll make old traditional stout, and let those kind of things do its different process in the barrels, and then people understand that and ask for that. It's been really cool to see that grow, and the appreciation for the differences with it.
As you've been messing around with that, because I've heard a couple of other people talk about that recently. Because I think for a while it was, well, we have a really good base stout, or we have a really good Imperial Russian stout, like whatever the base was going to be. And then we know it performs well in barrels. But as you've been messing around with different types of barrels and different stouts as well, like have you noticed that, one, brewer appreciation, and then two, consumer appreciation as well, of like, okay, it seems like everything is evolving in a meaningful way, even if the general stout and barrel aged excitement is maybe not what it was pre-COVID.
Yeah, what's crazy about that too, and I think this is just in beer in general. I think there's we're making some of the best beer we've ever made, because we've now had years of experience to dial things in and let especially on the barrel aged side, let time give us that extra bonus of beauty. We just released our barrel aged Imperial Smells Like Bean Spirit release over the weekend, and I had a couple different customers come up and say, "Hey, I just want to let you know this is probably the best lineup ever." And that that means a lot to us, because we always try to make the best product we possibly can, and we know over time, we listen to the feedback, we go on Untappd and look at reviews, like what's it missing, what do they want. And so some people are like, I feel like it needs more maple, it's a little bit too much coffee. So we made that tweak this year, and I think that kind of helped out with the overall product. And I think we can listen to that and then change it, and in seeing that maturation of our product, it's cool. And getting that real-time feedback is always amazing. Even though these products take years to develop, we can work on it to make sure that we're giving them what they want.
So when you were working on Bean Spirit for this year, right? What was how far out does that process begin for you? And ultimately, it needs to be what you're happy with. Like, it's cool that the consumers are, and the drinkers are like, yeah, this is the best one yet. But did you feel that way as well?
Yeah. So we we treated, so Bean Spirit definitely has its own base that goes in, and it's marked as Bean Spirit, whereas other beers just become whatever they are after we taste them. So like Sir Blends a lot is just a blend of different barrels together. Slap to Base is base stouts blended together, where Bean is definitely, it builds to be Bean Spirit at some point. But we sat down and we tasted through 20 different Bean Spirit barrels, and we built blends based on what we were looking for and tried to build that perfect base blend to then know, okay, well, we're adding this year barrel aged maple syrup on the backside, as opposed to just the maple syrup that went in at fermentation. We're adding a new coffee this year that's got a different profile than our old coffee. And so we were able to know that in mind going into the tasting to kind of find what we were looking for out of the wood to then complement the stuff that we're adding on the backside. And I think that it turned out amazing. Like with sometimes when you do over coffee, you lose the barrel, you lose the maple. And so we toned down the coffee to let the barrel shine first and then let the coffee kind of play in. And then the back kick is this really cool barrel aged maple syrup that, you feel like you're eating breakfast out of a bottle.
I like that. Um, for all of the things that you've done over the years, right? There's a lot that works. Is there anything that you swung for the fences and like it just wasn't there?
You know what? Sometimes I feel like sometimes we're ahead of the curve, too far ahead of the curve.
Okay.
We'll put stuff out and people don't know it or don't appreciate it at the time. And then they eventually catch up to it and be like, man, do you have any more of that? I'm like, that's long gone, right? Or it's just, I feel like my tasting profile is pretty advanced. And so like in the case of Amberana, we were on that pretty early. And I fell in love with it because we're flavor chasers here. And that was to me big natural flavors of baking spice and cinnamon and toasted bread. And it was amazing. We put it out and a lot of people were turned off by it because it was too much. It was too polarizing. I feel like that toned down a little bit over the time because Amberana barrels were hard to get and there was less of the flavor profile coming out of it. I also just think that was too polarizing that it really didn't catch on, right? And there's some of them where you're just like this case, we just did an Armagnac barrel, and people were like, "What is Armagnac?" I'm like, "Well, it's like cognac, but less refined." And so that was a great educational point there. But you then understand, hey, maybe we know we're too close to inside baseball, right? And we know too much, but it gives us an opportunity to educate and develop with this stuff and with the consumers. So there's fun to it, and there's also like this. I hope we didn't just put something out that nobody cares about.
So FoBAB was last weekend. And then over the last couple of years, you've been doing run-up events as well. So one, I want to hear about that. And then going into sort of the main event, right? Because I mean, I what is your run-up to FoBAB like?
Yeah, so I think that we've traveled all across the globe for beer fests, and I feel what makes a successful beer fest is not just the fest, it's the stuff around it, the things that lead up to the event, the incentives for consumers to pay the money to fly out there, to be there for more than just the weekend. I think Tampa Bay Beer Week is a great example of that. At their height, every brewery was doing an event, and you had a reason to go out there Tuesday and leave Monday. And I feel that FoBAB is a great fest, but if there's nothing else around it, you probably only need one day to drink those beers on the floor and you're done. So I really wanted to start creating this build up to it and get people in here to do more than just the fest. So we started off by doing MikerPhoBAB a few years ago, kind of just, sourced barrel-aged beers from our friends that weren't maybe submitting to FoBAB or weren't submitting that beer to FoBAB. And then it went from that to be like, hey, let's pick a winner out of this. And then it went to let's actually have judges sit down and taste through these and pick them, and then let the consumers also pick their favorite. So we brought in 17 different barrel-aged beers from breweries all across the U.S. We had a panel of 8 judges, and they, ended up picking their best in show and runner up, and the consumers also on their end picked their best in show and runner up. And so it was a cool way. It's the Thursday before. It is historically one of our best days in the tap room. And it's cool. It's relaxed now. You don't have to buy a ticket. If beers kick, they kick. So there's an incentive to get there early. Brewers show up to hang out. So if consumers want to talk to anybody or hang out, then this year we actually had sponsorship. We had, Raw BSG kicked in and supported the lunch. We had Underberg, we had Whiskey Acres, we had Dancing Goat here. And then Midwest Barrel is our co-sponsor of the event, and they are the ones who end up sending the awards to the brewers. And it's a super sweet barrel head, custom engraved with everything that they hang up in their tap room.
Oh, fun.
So it was cool. And then we're like, well, let's do more this year. Let's add more to the mix. And so we had Dancing Goat come in on Wednesday and do a sit down tasting of all their products, and then talk about how we've worked together, what barrels we've used, how we do picks with them, and then what we have in the hopper for coming out with them eventually. And then on Sunday, we did Barrel Aged Bean Spirit Day. So we brought our coffee vendor in to do samplings and sell coffee beans. We had a really great food truck here, and then that was the kickoff with those 3 new beers on tap and the bottle pickup, which, we sold the bottles on Osner, and we did like a 3-pack bundle, and those all sold out. So we had a bunch of people come in to pick up bottles or trying it on draft. And just, we built this Wednesday, Thursday. We had some stuff locally for Friday, Saturday, and then Sunday bookended it. So it was a fun week. It was a lot of work. My team busted their butt all week long to get it going and do it to it. But it was, at the end of the day, it was super well worth it. And I hope that more breweries, more bars, restaurants even get involved and try to do more events around FoBAB next year.
Yeah, I think you're right about the excitement that can build up, not just for the brewers that come into town, but just, there's cool things that lead into to big events. And if you just go to the convention center, for the 4 hours and drink beer, and then, you kind of wander to another bar and then maybe home, like I like that sense of community that you're bringing to it. So, but you got to the fest proper this year.
Yes, for sure.
So when you're there, and the way that you think about wood aging and big boozy stouts and marshmallows and all of the coffee beans and all the things that you think about, when you walk the floor, obviously being the unofficial beer mayor of Chicagoland, and shaking babies and kissing hands, what are you looking for, like, when you're on the floor? Like, what are you searching for inspiration? Are you a fan in your own way? What's the brewer, the Mike Pallen brewer experience like on the floor tasting beers?
Yes, the fest is pretty incredible, but it's also overwhelming, right? Because there's over 300 beers, but thankfully you have 2 days to taste through things. And I think this year I kind of wandered, and you hear the grumblings of what people are talking about. And so you obviously want to go in and try your beers that you submitted first, just to make, quality control, make sure they're getting poured right. Or if FoBAB is a unique one where they have volunteers pouring all the beers. So I just want to make sure if they had any questions, comments, whatever, we could help them and guide them and then taste the beer and see if they're good. And very happy with their 2 entries this year, even though we didn't win, all good. But then it's kind of like talking to people as you're walking through, and hearing what they're liking and what you should go try. And then it's seeking out breweries that we've never worked with before and seeing what they're doing. I was completely blown away by Third Eye Brewing out of Ohio. The 2 beers I tried from them were just phenomenal, like incredible. Like that, I went up to them afterwards and congratulated them, and it's like it was, just like so well done. And I need to seek more about them. And I've heard their names a lot at GABF. They win a lot, but this is the first time I've tried their barrel aged products. And one was a blend in the blend category, and then one was a double barrel, double coconut, and just like so well done. And then it's kind of going through and trying other stuff and being like, well, why did that win? You're curious to see, like, why did that beer beat our beer in that category, and what was different? Like, what were the judges looking for? And always trying to figure that out. And then, You know, when they do post out who wins, you always see every consumer go run over there and see what's up. And then
Oh yeah.
you got to taste those for sure, right? And see what won. But then there's those other ones later where you're like, what haven't I tried yet? And should I try this beer? And the experimental category is awesome because there's so many different things that are put in that category. And that's where the cool inspiration comes from. Like this year, I think was the first year saw multiple barrel aged hard seltzers, which it shouldn't surprise any of us that people are doing that. But it was cool to see what people did with that concept and see if some people made tiki drinks, some made, just adjuncted, fruited. And it was really cool. And we have one hard seltzer currently sitting in a Pips mead barrel, but I think we should dive deeper into this and see what we can get out of it and play with it. So that was the fun category to go through and dig around and try some stuff. I think Bottle Logic created a killer hard seltzer barrel aged cocktail that was just so good. I wanted to drink more and more of it. That's the one I think I went back and had the most of.
I mean, if anybody was going to do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So mindful of your time, as you think about, as you're coming off of the high of this past weekend, what would you say is the state of barrel aged beer in America right now?
Yeah, I think the state of barrel aged beer right now is that there's still this excitement and there's still that, this is our top of the line product in my eyes. I think that people understand and appreciate the time and energy and effort that goes into it. And they're still willing to pay more than they ever have for a bottle of it. Going back to the fest and going back to Goose Island, they bring out their train car to FoBAB and they do, timed releases throughout the entire fest. And every time you went outside to go get it, there's a line wrapped around waiting for people in line going to get the next taste. And so there's still excitement for their stuff. There's still excitement to see what people are doing and doing differently. And, people maybe not be buying 5 bottles like they used to. They might be only buying 1 or 2, but there's still this giant appreciation for it. And, I'm excited because their barrels were hard to get for a little bit. Barrels became very expensive. I think a lot of distilleries have put a lot of money into their barrel programs. So I think we're going to see a lot more barrels coming out and, readily available. And it gives us the opportunity to grab more barrels than we ever had before. And we're pumped to continue to go back and fill up our collection here. And, traditionally during the doldrum months of January, February, we'll use that time to, brew batches and fill barrels up and fill that collection back up. So we're invested in it. We in Chicagoland, there's no just stout season. I think stout is available all year round.
Oh yeah.
And we let the barrels tell us when the beer's ready, right? We don't plan, Black Friday releases just for Black Friday. We have beers all year round, barrel aged beer all year round. And I think that, having that collection allows us to do that and let the barrel be like, hey, this one's ready. Let's release it now. And sometimes they surprise us. Like we did the Portugal beer. It was a double barrel stout aged in port wine barrels. And we were doing a tasting with another brewery, Moxa Brewing. And they were like, dude, you got to release this now. It is ready to go. And we're like, all right, we didn't plan it. Let's do it. So, and we could do that. And there was definitely people who came out, bought it, tried it, loved it, and we're good to go with it. So, stout season is every day for us here.
I like that.
There's not much.
Yeah.
We don't really do much of non-barrel aged stout anymore. And I think that
non-barrel aged. So like, I can't just like walk in and get a dry Irish stout from you. You're going to be like, no, here it is with almond paste and.
Well, we just released.
I'm not mad at it. I'm just,
we just released our first ever oatmeal stout because anytime we ever brewed stout, it was always 10 or 11 or 12% to go to barrel. So now we just did that. But traditionally, if we're releasing any of the beers that we did back in the day that were non-barrel aged, now they're all barrel aged. And I think that we have had that time and effort to do it. And like, why put out the non-barrel aged version when we can put out the barrel aged version?
Is there maybe this is just me, like wishful thinking, right? But every time I think of one of, your beers or the beers that are FoBAB, it's always, 12, 13, 14% kind of thing. And it's like, okay, like I'm here for it, but in small amounts. C- Can you do a simple session at 5.5, 6% with good barrel character? Like I know you can. Like, is there a market for it?
Yeah, I think there's been a huge trend to downshift on ABV, right? Like we're seeing the sweet spot of IPA hover around that 6%. There's a lot of brands that are coming out that are sub 4%. Um, the biggest risk is that if you go into barrel below a certain ABV, you're running the risk of infection. So you got to be very careful, and you got to stay on top of those barrels and watch them, and then probably should plate it too to make sure that nothing grew, because if you go above a certain percentage of alcohol, it should be able to handle anything that was left in that barrel, microbes or whatever. If it's under, then those things can take over the beer and sour it and spoil it, or cause infection. So we got to be very careful with that. We've never done that just because we don't want to waste our time to then, have a product that is not up to our standards or souring fast. So we don't do it right now. But what I think you could do is make a session stout and age it on, barrel spirals or wood chips and get the flavors that you're looking for out of that.
Okay. I mean, I would drink it.
Yeah.
Not daily, but more regularly than I think I do,
Yeah. And I
some of
know,
the
like,
other
so
stuff. But yeah.
that's the key thing about FoBAB is it's festival of barrel aged or wood in barrel aged beer. So like you don't have to necessarily be in the barrel. It just has to be on wood, right? So it could be the chips, it could be the spirals, it could be any of that stuff. So I know people are doing it. When I homebrewed, I used to use wood chips. So it's definitely doable, and maybe this just inspired us to do it. So
Okay.
we
I
might have to
mean,
collab on it together. Let's go.
let's you tell me. For as long as I've known you, for as much as we've hung out around various festivals around the country and around the world, like I have still not walked through your doors, which is shameful, and I'm sorry. So yeah, you tell me when in 2026 you want to do this collab, and I'll come out.
Well, right next to my desk there is a framed article that says "The Collaborationist"
Oh yeah.
by John Holl.
Yeah. Well, see, I got to come out and see your office.
We
So,
sure do.
every time you look at that now, think of, me and when I'm going to come out and do it. Um, in the meantime, let me ask you this. You were on the show, I think, at the beginning of COVID. And I don't know if I started asking this question yet, but on this program for a while now, I've been asking the green door question. Premise being on the television show The Good Place, the final season introduces a concept of the green door where the characters can walk through it and be wherever they want, doing whatever they want. So if we had a green door on our plane of existence and this conversation ended and you could walk through it and be in any pub or any brewery anywhere in the world, where would you want to go? Who would you want to be with? And what would you like to be drinking?
Wow, what a great question. Um, I was just in Rome at, oh my God, I'm gonna butcher the name, Macchia Tisette. Um, and it's rated the best beer bar in the world.
Okay.
And I love it. It's just the way the people, we don't have that in Chicagoland, a bar like that where it's kind of in a little alley. It's there. The people are friendly, hanging out, grabbing the local beer that's on and beers that are flown in, and the tap list changes all the time, right? So you're always going there every day to see what's new and what's good. And if I was there, I would most likely be drinking something from Cantillon, just because
Sure.
why not? When you're there, they have it. They even have special ones sometimes too. And so I think that would be where I would go. I'd walk back into that place again. We've shared correspondence together with me and the owner, but I've never met him in person. And so I'd like to finally be there with him when he's there, and roll out everybody. We have such a great, amazing crew in this industry It's a second family on the road. And even, my family knows them because they stay at our house. And that whole crew of brewers and brewery owners that we've built this forever bond with, I wish one day we could all be together in Rome drinking a beer at that bar.
It's a great goal, and doable in this age of jet travel. So I hope that can work out for you. I'm going to let you get back to the collaboration that you have going on, and then hopefully trying that beer 18 months to 2 years from now or
Let's
beyond. But thanks, man. Thanks for taking the time. Thanks for pushing Big Boozy Stouts forward in a meaningful way. I appreciate that a great deal.
Yeah, if anybody's ever here and they're looking for a barrel-aged stout and we don't have it right in front of them, ask the question, because there's somewhere in this building there's something we can share and let you try.
I love that, and you're not far from the airport too, right? Like,
we're about 10 minutes away from O'Hare, so not far at all.
Yeah, so schedule your layovers correctly, and make the second leg of your journey a really fun and entertaining one, filled with Mike Stouts.
There you go.
Thanks, pal. Thanks for doing this. I appreciate it.
Always great chatting with you. Anytime.
FoBAB usually happens in the early part of November, so get your 2026 calendar in order, and I'll see you in Chicago. In the meantime, make sure you join the This Week in Rauk Beer group on Facebook or follow at TW Rauk Beer on Instagram. Upload your photos and join the conversation. As always, you can reach me anytime by email. It's johnholl@allaboutbeer.com. That's JOHNHOLL @allaboutbeer.com. You can support us by visiting allaboutbeer.com/support, and I hope you do. And when you're at the website, poke around a bit. Check out the new content as well as the archives going back to 1979, and follow all of the links to follow All About Beer on social media. Before we run, here's a note from this episode's sponsors. We thank them for their support. We hope you'll give them your business.
Hey friends, this is Andy Crouch at All About Beer. Let's take a second to thank our friends at Human Robot in Philly for their support of All About Beer. As one of our newest underwriters, Human Robot shows that it loves great words and pictures about beer as much as 10-ounce milk tubes of Czech-style Mliko pours, something they invented. With their focus on classic styles and most importantly great lager beer, Human Robot has understandably made a great name for itself. Join me in celebrating their luscious lagers and fine ales. And also, join Human Robot and the more than 25 other sponsors as part of the All About Beer community.
StompStickers.com is loaded with features to make ordering a breeze. They save all your artwork and order history, so restocking your bestsellers is just a click away. Oh, and did we mention free shipping on every order? Try Stomp Stickers today and snag 15% off of your first order with the code FIRSTRUN.
Calling all hopheads. Dogfish Head's 60-minute IPA is a fantastically hoppy India Pale Ale that's beautifully balanced thanks to their unique continual hopping method. Delivering a pungent hop flavor that isn't crushingly bitter, 60 Minute is continually hopped throughout the boil for a full 60 minutes. Starting to see where the name comes from? Check out dogfish.com to learn more and to find some 60 Minute near you. Dogfish Head Craft Brewery, Milton, Delaware. Please drink responsibly.
If you like smart audio content, a reminder that All About Beer has a separate podcast channel. Search and subscribe on your podcast platform of choice. Steal This Beer has new episodes every Monday, and the BYO Nano podcast comes out on the 15th of every month. As for this show, Nate Weber does the music, Jeff Quinn designed our logo, and I'm John Holl. New episodes release every Wednesday, and that's when I'll be back again to drink beer and to think beer.